Now that you have a better understanding of the difference between a concept and a theme and how you might apply a concept to the project, I would like to walk you through the process of how you might develop a concept and tweak it so that it matches your project more specifically. So I'm going to begin by walking you through this worksheet of how to develop a concept, and then I'm going to show you an example of how it was applied. So this was developed by Jill Pable at Florida State University. To begin, you want to select a concept, which can be, as we saw, an image or an idea that closely relates to the client's needs or wants, as it says here, and its hopes and dreams. Then you want to take that concept, make sure that it's, representative of the characteristics or priorities of the client, as it says here, the needs, location of the project, items the client enjoys, or many other possibilities. So once you've selected a concept that's a really strong tie to your client, it's now time to deconstruct it into its parts. And so you can see here there's 3 descriptor words on this sheet. And I really like to think about these descriptor words as the elements and principles of the design that are represented by your concept and your concept image. And this will help you figure out what qualities of your design concept can be directly applied to the physical space. So once you've got 3 at least, although there's probably more that would work, 3 that reflect the elements and principles of design of your concept, and that also might work for your project, go ahead and create a little sketch of how you might interpret these words. They don't have to be directly tied to the physical space or architectural features or design features yet. It's really just starting to get you to think about how to visualize these words. You might also now use a brief text description under the word that shows your thought process and what you were thinking about as you were drawing these images and thinking about these descriptor words. Once you've deconstructed, it's now time to reinterpret. And this is the step where you think about how these elements and principles of design might represent themselves in your physical space. And so a little thumbnail sketch down here under the reinterpret category might be where you can show how you're thinking about these concepts applied to a physical space. And once again, a brief text description will help your viewer and really help you be able to think about this in a more succinct way. So once you have an idea of this process, let's go ahead and look at an example. So here you can see an example of how I have extrapolated the idea of a concept into or concept image into what will result in a physical space. So you can see here, I have selected the image of a cherry blossom. And this cherry blossom image, you can see here, is just a beautiful, nice close-up image. And you can see here, I connected it to the client because this fictional client loves the natural world and interacting in it. And the client was born in Washington, D.C., but has recently relocated to Japan. And for those of you who don't know, these 2 geographical regions are known for these beautiful cherry blossoms that bloom seasonally. So thinking about that cherry blossom and how it might represent itself, I'm going to begin by deconstructing it into some elements and principles of design. So the ones that stuck out most to me, although as I said, there are probably many, was the idea of line. And you can see in this cherry blossom image that there's, straight lines and curved lines and lines that are representing the flowers and the stems. So I wanted to focus on line and the idea that straight and organic lines can be juxtaposed together to create something very interesting. And you can see a little doodle of how I interpreted that thought just below. The next element and principle I was focusing on was contrast. And I think about these cherry blossoms as being a contrast between textures with the, hard, rough stem and the soft petals, and thinking about sort of the darker color on the petals and the interior of or the darker color on the stem with the light color of the petals. So you can see that I'm representing contrast here, both with texture and color in my little doodle just below. Under repetition, we can see here that I'm thinking about the repetition both of the beautiful blossoms on the branch, and then seeing these blossoms repeating over many, many trees during cherry blossom season. So thinking about repetition as form repeating at both large and small scales. So now that I've deconstructed this image and this concept into into its elements and principles of design, it's time now for me to reinterpret thinking about these things in an interior setting. So to begin here, you can see on the left, the key architectural features in the casework, and you're seeing a little doodle of a doorway here, can incorporate straight and organic lines, okay? So you can see an example here of that juxtaposition. On the next one, you're seeing how contrast might be reinterpreted by incorporating textiles and materials with a variety of textures, color, and scale. And then finally, we're seeing repetition. And I'm showing you here an example of this beautiful floral themed organic sconce, a very simple sketch of what might be a rug. And then to the right of that, a handle. And you can see, a puller handle that we might put on a piece of furniture. So you can see here this form is repeating on the small scale and the large scale. And so that's showing how we can repeat motifs throughout the space. So as you can see here, now I, as a result of this process, have a very clear idea of sort of the design direction that I want to go in. But you can see here that it's not overtly representative of cherry blossoms. It's not that I'm painting cherry blossoms or putting cherry blossoms on wallpaper or upholstery, although I certainly could, but that's sort of the low-hanging fruit. So instead, what I want to do is think about this design concept a bit more abstractly and think about how it might be applied to a physical space in a more subtle and integrated way. So once you have this, your concept connected, deconstructed, and reinterpreted, you're now ready to take those elements that are most critical and bring them into a design presentation for your client.